9 is out now in theaters, and with big blockbusters like this, I really want to talk spoilers. I did a spoiler-free review. I had a minor spoiler in there. I've already talked about that. I'm going to talk about it a little bit more here, but with big blockbusters, I really want to talk more about the movie itself and more in-depth about the movie. Not necessarily a play-by-play. There might be a few of these spoiler reviews that I do in the future that are a play-by-play, but mostly just some ideas I just didn't really think worked in Fast and Furious 9 that I couldn't talk about in a spoiler-free review and I want to talk about in a spoiler review. So here we are, major blockbuster spoiler review. Let's get to it. As I said in my review, I gave a disclaimer for a minor spoiler that there's now like electromagnets that attach cars to other cars, and this is in a way what made the action sequences entertaining, but it got old after a while. It felt like I was watching a Michael Bay Transformers movie without the Transformers. I mean, cars are just flipping around. Dom and the crew are just turning nozzles around so that they can try and outsmart the bad guys. Which, by the way, the villain in this movie, Otto, is really lame. And it's actually enlisted by Cypher. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Cypher's in this movie. But she's in like a huge box or something where she can't really move, so she's like the Palpatine or the Blofeld, the one behind the scenes who's playing everybody, and she's just having this dude Otto do her dirty work, and then it just gets to a point where he fails and she's like, alright, fine, I'll do it myself. She gets out of this box that's in a giant hangar. So this giant box is in a hangar that she has been in this whole time, an aircraft hangar, by the way. She gets out of this box when she says, oh hey, I'll do it myself then. Slight nod to Thanos, I bet. And in the final action sequence, she's trying to kill the crew, and Jacob has, you know, switched sides because, you know, family. So he's actually now helping Dom, and now Cypher is coming after Dom and trying to kill him with her cool plane that also has a magnet that can attach itself to cars, and there's that crazy action sequence from the trailer. Toretto drives his car into the rope of a bridge, and, you know, the car legitimately flies. Yeah, that plane, she's flying that plane, but oh wait, she's not flying that plane. She's actually flying it remotely from the aircraft hangar, and she's in this like simulation box thing. So this entire movie, she either doesn't leave a box or she doesn't leave the aircraft hangar. So she literally is just useless the entire movie when she is essentially the main villain, and she's just using this weasel Otto guy to do her dirty work. I didn't get this entire device. Like, it's an electromagnet. Like, anything that's made of metal or silver, when it's activated, can attach itself to it. Maybe for something cool towards the middle of the movie where it attached like all these objects were just attached to the side of this truck. But after a while, it just got old because every 5 seconds it was just them turning the nozzles and trying to outsmart the bad guys. I'm like, shouldn't the bad guys have thought of the villains know, Otto, Cypher, and the rest of their cronies know exactly what this thing does. Shouldn't they be anticipating this? Like, seriously, give me a break. Apparently there's like it's this thing called Ares. It's not just an electromagnet, but it will like activate like all of like the nuclear weapons on Earth, or it's something like that. I don't know. It's all hazy, and I just saw the movie 20 minutes ago. It's something like that, but it will give like the power for like New World Order or something, and that's why Jacob is after it. There's like two halves, but then there's also like a key that needs to be inserted into this device, and you find out that there's this girl who is actually the best part of the movie. I will say this. I forget what the character's name is, so don't get mad at me, but she was actually the best part of the movie. It's just I didn't really like the storyline that they took with her, where she actually is the key, and that the key is in her DNA, and I'm like, that's just, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Whatever, I never thought I would be longing for the days of Fast and Furious to go back to actual street racing. And I now want it to happen, especially since I'm avoiding the major spoiler here. Yeah. Remember in my spoiler-free review where I said it seemed like the writer was taking everything we had said and theorized jokingly about where this series should go in the future and took that and put it in the script and thought we were all being serious about it? Well, Fast and Furious has gone to space, folks. They have broken orbit, and Tej and Roman legit go to space. This car, I don't understand the car. Like, I get it. This is a series that defies logic. It defies physics. It is not realistic at all. But to a point, you have to realize when enough is enough. Like, this is just too far. The entire concept is just too far. It's not even just the fact that they go to space. It's the fact of how they get to space. First of all, they bring back Twinkie. And what's Lucas Black's character's name? Sean? I don't know. I don't really remember. I just remember Bow Wow's name being Twinkie because I was like, who names their kid Twinkie? Bring back those like 3 misfits from Tokyo Drift. Apparently they're like working on like rockets and stuff. The moment that happened in the movie, I said to myself, holy shit, they are going to space. It is going to happen. And I was just anticipating it. I was looking forward to seeing how they were going to do it. Apparently, their idea of going to space is that they're going to take this giant-ass rocket engine, attach it to the top of a car that is sitting on a military fighter jet in midair that somehow doesn't fall off when the airplane ascends to get them to the appropriate height so that Roman and Tej can drive this car off the jet and go straight up in the air and break orbit and go into space. But not only that, the rocket engine is there so that they can take down this satellite. I can't explain this. My brain is fried just thinking about that. But that is how they get into space. They have a giant-ass rocket engine attached to the top of a car. And Tej and Roman are, like, dressed up in, like, old-ass, like, yellow, wrinkly scuba gear. And that's, like, their astronaut costume. And I gotta say, the moment where they come out of the car in space, shitty CGI. Like, it's played for laughs because it's like, hey, look at us. I'm like, oh my god, they're still in space. Oh my god. I also just didn't like the geography of any of the action sequences. It was weird because they kept going to all these locations that were in a Bond movie, like the Caspian Sea and then the island from The Man with the Golden Gun, which is where the first action scene takes place. And I said, how is this even possible? Like, you're on a giant rock. I don't know. There was nothing around. When there's nothing around like that, it gets really boring for me. There's another action sequence that takes place in Edinburgh, Scotland. And it felt like it was a congested city, just so narrow that I felt like they had a hard time getting around, driving around, and even jumping off of buildings. I was like, is this the north end of Boston? Because this is what the north end of Boston is like, congested and narrow. I didn't like the way that they explained Han's, you know, not death, but not death. Apparently his death was staged by him and Mr. Nobody. He's been working for Mr. Nobody this whole time. And, I don't get it. Like, this is what I'm talking about. You have to realize when too far is too far, and it's just taking it too far. I honestly thought it was going to be one of those things that they weren't even going to explain, period. I thought it was just going to be like, oh, Han's back. Why? Because he's popular. Really, it gets me thinking that, like, they're just coming up with excuses to try and avoid the actual subject of whether or not these are superheroes or if they're invincible, like the movie repeatedly questions. And I was thinking about it. I was like, you know what? Maybe they are invincible. Because Letty dies in the 4th one and then comes back in the 6th one. We find out that she's actually alive, but she has amnesia. Han comes back in this one. At the time, when Han was in 4, we didn't know that 3 was a prequel. And he was in 4, 5, and 6. And then we find out that 3 was a prequel. I don't know. This whole thing is just... it's too much. It was a lame attempt to explain why he came back. I would have, honestly, I probably would have been more okay with it if they just left it unexplained and been like, okay, yeah, I'll accept that he's back for no reason at all. But because he is a human being, apparently, they had to explain how he came back. I did like Mia getting back into the action. I thought Jordana Brewster was really good in the action sequences. She's not in the movie all that much. I thought she held her own. I liked how they had to go off on their separate escapades for a little bit. I actually felt like the movie had a bit of a slow pace to it in the middle because they were going on all these escapades, and that's what really makes the movie feel long, not The action scenes do too, but it's really this middle section where they go off on their own thing. They're trying to track down Jacob and where the rest of this device is and where Han is. Toretto tracks down Owen and Deckard Shaw's mother, so Helen Mirren comes back. She tells him that Jacob's in Edinburgh. Letty and Mia find Han in Tokyo. Edge and Roman find the trio from Tokyo Trip. It's a lot going on, and there's a lot of moving parts that really don't have to be moving parts in a movie like this, because a lot of people are just here for the action and the cars and the insane stunts, but there's too, I think it just goes too sci-fi for a Fast and Furious movie. After a while, just seeing them turn those nozzles to activate the electromagnets, and just seeing all these cars just go flinging backwards or flinging sideways or flinging all over the place like it's a damn Michael Bay movie. It's just boring and tiresome. I hated the villain Otto. He reminded me of like Gustav Graves for some reason from Die Another Day. I don't know. That's the feeling I got. I don't know why I got that feeling.
Time to draw the line.
Maybe it's because both of the movies in their respective franchises are the most sci-fi the franchises have gotten. There's a bunch of flashbacks that explain the relationship between Jacob and Dom. But as I said in my spoiler-free review, like again, Jacob hasn't even been mentioned in the first 8 movies. Like, why are we focusing on this now? It's clear to me that the reason this happened is because of the well-publicized fallout between Dwayne Johnson and Vin Diesel. So they had to find a replacement for Dwayne Johnson. In comes John Cena, and now he's an entirely new character. Now, the writers were faced with the task of coming up with a new character, and instead of making him just some random dude who could have played a similar role that Dwayne Johnson played in the previous ones, instead he's now this random Toretto that we've never heard of, and apparently he was responsible for his and Dom's father's death, or at least that's how Dom makes it out to be, and that's why Dom has this grudge against him, and apparently their father and Dom have really not embraced Jacob as a family member. He was always the odd man out. These flashbacks they were annoying, and the actors that played young Dom and young Jake were also terrible. I don't think they were needed. I understand the attempt to explain this backstory, but it was all of the stuff with John Cena and had Toretto having this random brother. It was all far-fetched. Like, I mean, everything in these movies is far-fetched, but going to outer space, an electromagnet, and this random Toretto brother are the things that are the most far-fetched in this series. I think I've had enough to say about Fast and Furious 9. I'm actually surprised I did a spoiler review. Wasn't planning on it, but I did want to talk about aspects I didn't talk about in the spoiler-free review, such as going into outer space and legitimately shooting a car into that satellite. Like, what the fuck was that? I thought I had seen it all. I haven't. So that's my spoiler review for Fast and Furious 9 or F9, whatever the hell you want to call it nowadays. Drop me some feedback in the comment section below. Leave my link to my website in the description below as well. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I'll see you at the movies somewhere.